Hey everyone, I hope you had a great day. In this video we are looking at some new r/malicious compliance stories. I hope you enjoy them. The first story is called Who Created the Problem? This happened at an old workplace of mine around 10 years ago. I was a junior/mid developer for a mid-sized company. The different managers had been in the company for a long time. They knew the old system and could keep it limping along. They understood the business just because they were there for so long. But they never kept up with the changing technology. None of them understood the newer concepts and refused to learn anything. The company started to rewrite the app from the ground up, using all new technology and good practices. The old guard sat back and did minimal work, out of laziness or not understanding what to do. No one really knew. They would come to the morning meeting and assign the work. And then take no tasks but take all the credit at the demos. One thing that was a massive pain point to clients was bulk data loads. Some clients would need over 4 hours to load the data from that day. This was unacceptable in the new system. We had a prospective client come in. They loved the system, but would not sign unless we can get the data loads down to minutes. Because of the client, we refocused and started work on data loads. The team was me, 2 other devs and my manager. She wanted to be on this because it was so high profile and figured it would look great for her. The 3 of us figured she would do no work and just demo the features like normal. Wrong. This time she started to take critical tasks. We each worked our tickets, making sure to add plenty of tests and check the performance of all the code. Slowly my manager would hand her work off to us. This was fine with us, as we did not trust her code. At the end of the cycle we had it down to 20 minutes to load what used to take an hour. But this was not good enough. The CTO said we had to get it under 10 minutes. My manager jumped on his side and said the work we did was poor and she would fix it. The CTO laughed. She turned to us and told us we had to figure this out within a week. We noticed right away that it did not scale correctly. If 10 items took 1 second, 20 would take 4. We all knew what happened. We found a little bit of code my manager wrote and she was recursively checking data. What was even better is that the entire function was unneeded. We commented out the call and 20 minutes was now seconds. We took the 4-hour file and loaded it in 2 minutes. We said nothing to my manager and she never asked because she thought we had no chance of figuring it out. I heard her speaking to consultants. She wanted to be the hero and have them all ready to come in and fix our code. In the next demo, the CTO wanted an update. We told him we had made updates and it should be a little better. We selected the large file and it was done in 2 minutes. My manager lost her mind. I could see that she was ready to rip into us. If it was fixed, the credit should have been hers. The CTO asked what fixed it. I did not want to hurt my manager anymore. I figured stealing the glory was enough. I replied that we just cleaned up the code. That was not good enough for my manager. She pressed whose code caused the problem. She had forgotten that she had any code on the project, since she never finished her task. I smiled and replied, "It was your code." Her head exploded. Nothing else was said as the meeting moved on. She pulled me into her office after and started to yell. She could not say anything to the other devs, they had a different manager. But I was under her. Why did I not tell her? I'm supposed to report to her my findings. How could I make her look like that? I just sat there, not saying anything. Once she was done, I put in my 2 weeks notice and walked out. Days later, she and the CTO called me in to beg me to stay. I said I'd like to go somewhere with a manager who wants my success, not failure. I still smile, thinking about her face when the process ran and telling her that she was a weakling in our group. The next story is called Only for Guest Recovery. I worked at a popular national smoothie place. I was the team lead, basically the manager on duty. One night we were getting ready to close and a customer walked up just as I was going to lock the door. As a company policy, we should have our door unlocked 5 minutes before our posted time and keep the door unlocked 5 minutes past closing. It was like 7 minutes past closing, but I let the guy in the shop. And since my team was already doing closing procedures and cleaning, I decided to ring him up and make his smoothie myself. While talking to him, I found out he had just flown in to see his sister, who was suffering from cancer. Our smoothies were one of the few things she could tolerate to eat. So I made both of the smoothies he ordered in a larger size and gave him 5 free smoothie cards we keep on hand to help with dissatisfied customers. We also had a BOGO promotion going, so I gave him some of those as well. I told him I wish I could do more, but I hope that helped. He was very grateful, both for the coupons as well as me letting him in at closing. The next day, I told my store manager that I had given the free smoothie cards to him, that's why so many were missing. We kept a running inventory of them to make sure none disappeared. She informed me I shouldn't have given them to him, they are only for customer recovery and issues like that. And to document if I gave any future ones out for anything. I thought whatever and stuck to her rules. So a couple of weeks later, she told me that the district manager wanted to meet with us. We had no clue what for, and I hadn't thought again about what I did with the guy, because that's just how I was raised and how I roll. Come to find out, the guy was so impressed he contacted the corporate about his experience. And I was being recognized by the company. I was the first ever in our district to be recognized with the company award. And I was featured in the company newsletter for going above and beyond and exemplifying what the company stood for. I asked the district manager if I needed to only use the card for gas recovery or if I could use them for things like this at my discretion. He looked at me like I was crazy and told me of course I could use them for anything I get was worthwhile, that I should always do that. My manager was not happy with me but couldn't say anything because I got permission from over her head. The third story is called I Will Report It to the HOA. We were living in a condo complex on the second floor. My downstairs neighbor was this older couple. The lady had a heart condition, so she was always in and out of the hospital. I did my best to be respectful of her needs. I have 4 kids, and unfortunately, when you choose to live in the ground level unit, you have to deal with upstairs noise. I'm pretty strict about how my kids play inside. So if there was ever excessive noise, it didn't last long. Every now and then the lady would text me asking if everything was okay. But it was always just a tantrum. Back in August, my husband's maternal grandmother died. We were not informed, much less invited to the funeral. It was a whole thing. So to help his siblings through their grief, we offered to host a lunch for his siblings after they went to the gravesite and did a little meeting there. I wanted to clean my porch off because 4 kids are super messy. I texted my neighbor and very politely but firmly said, "Hey, we are gonna be cleaning our porch. So if there's anything you don't want getting wet, move it out of the way." Well, she didn't like that at all. She threw a huge fit and had her husband come up and try to bully us. Her grandkids had drawn in chalk on her patio and we were just gonna wash it all away. How horrible of us. Her husband ends up saying, "We'll just report it to the HOA and deal with it that way." I was so irate. We ended up not cleaning the porch due to some other circumstances, but they had already sent in their complaint. Next week rolls by and I get a letter in the mail from the HOA. It was basically saying, "You have to keep your porch clean or we will fine you." And here comes the malicious compliance. I text my neighbor and let her know that we got the letter and I would be cleaning the porch that day, so she needed to get all her stuff moved. She was all huffy. "Oh no, you can't do that today. I can't move anything. I'll talk to my husband." A while later, she texts and says he's coming home early to move everything. He's not happy. Gee, I wish we could have done this on a Saturday, like I had planned last week. Sucks to suck, lady. It felt so glorious spraying off my porch, knowing she was downstairs complaining about it because I could hear her phone conversation. The last story is called Thanksgiving Compliance. I moved back in with my parents back in March. I've been showing my gratitude by cooking every night. I'm pretty good and often make tasty marinades for meat that involve a lot of ingredients. Every time, without fail, my dad jokes to just throw the meat in Italian dressing and not bother with the fancy marinades. The joke has gotten stale and annoying, but I love my dad, so it's not a big deal. For Thanksgiving, my mother and I proposed to Dad that we get the turkey dinner pre-made from the local deli counter, since it will only be the 3 of us. Dad never helps to cook during the holidays. And an entire Thanksgiving meal is difficult to prepare with only 2 people. Besides, we get the deli meals and sides there regularly, and they are delicious. Dad refused and made a big deal that we need to do Thanksgiving dinner properly. We laid out all the extra work and money it would take and ultimately compromised on some elements being home-cooked and some pre-bought. A compromised element was buying raw turkey thighs to cook as our protein, since those are Dad's favorite. You might see where this is going. It was my job to cook the turkey thighs, since I'm good at meats. And I made a marinade for them. I had all my sauces and spices set out and ready to go. Right then, Mom and Dad started arguing about how Dad wanted homemade diabetic-friendly cookies for dessert. I didn't like that, since he had made no mention of them earlier and I could have made them earlier, and we already had plenty of sugar-free sweets. As Dad walked by, he snidely remarked, "Don't forget the Italian," and something snapped inside me. We did all this extra work because he insisted. He wasn't helping, he wanted more, and now he was being sassy. So I thought, okay, Italian it is. I put all my seasonings away and dumped an entire bottle of cheap, low-fat Italian dressing on the thighs and threw it back in the fridge overnight. I cooked them as planned the next day, and they smelled and tasted like a salad. They weren't bad, but it was like eating turkey salad. Dad tried a bite and kept chewing, and eventually looked at me in accusation as I slowly stared at him. "Did you? Yes, you said you wanted Italian." And we kept eating our salad turkey dinner. Dad has yet to address the turkey or mention the possibility of an entire homemade Christmas dinner. What do you think about today's stories? What was your favorite? Let me know in the comments. Have a great day. Bye bye.